Some horror movies become classics because almost everyone agrees that they just are. They get restored, re released, revisited every October. People write essays about them and argue over where they belong on lists of the great horror movies ever made. But other horror movies survive in a quieter way. You discover them on cable late at night or sitting on the shelf of a video store. Maybe someone recommends one to you with the words, "I cannot believe you have never seen this." They may never receive the prestige or attention given to horror's biggest names, but the people who find them never really forget them. For me, Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight is one of those movies. It is bloody, funny, grimy, strange, and completely committed to being exactly what it is. And I think it deserves more respect. Note, there are spoilers ahead. At first glance, Demon Knight sounds like the kind of movie that could easily fall apart. There is an ancient key containing sacred blood, a man who has spent decades protecting it, and a charming demon called the Collector who needs it to unleash darkness upon the world. Eventually, all of that supernatural history gets trapped inside an isolated boarding house with a group of people who have no idea what has arrived at their door. It is a huge premise placed inside a very small location, and that is one of the smartest things the movie does. Instead of constantly expanding outward, Demon Knight closes in. The characters barricade the doors and windows. They draw protective barriers with blood. They listen to things moving outside. Slowly, the boarding house stops feeling like shelter. It begins to feel like a trap. The movie understands one of the simplest pleasures in horror. Put a group of people in one location, surround them with something terrible, and make the walls feel thinner every minute. The people inside are not trained demon hunters. They are simply the people who happen to be there. They argue, they panic, they make selfish decisions. Some rise to the situation, while others prove exactly why they should not have been trusted. That makes the fight for survival feel messier and more human. These are not nameless bodies waiting for their death scenes. The supporting characters have enough personality that you understand who they are, what they fear, and where their weak points might be. And in a movie like this, weak points matter. The demons outside are dangerous, but they are not the only threat. The Collector knows the people inside do not have to be physically overpowered. Some of them can simply be persuaded. Billy Zane's Collector is the reason much of this works as well as it does. He could have been played as a loud, growling demon who spends the entire movie threatening everyone. Instead, he is charming. He jokes, he smiles, he loses his patience, then collects himself and tries a different approach. He often seems less interested in tearing the building apart than in convincing someone inside to open the door. That makes him more entertaining, but also more dangerous. A monster trying to kill you is frightening. A monster that knows what you want may be worse. The Collector recognizes people's resentments, appetites, loneliness, anger, and disappointment. Then he offers them an escape. Not a real escape, of course, but one shaped specifically for them. He does not need everyone to trust him. He only needs one person to want something badly enough. Billy Zane gives the role so much personality that the collector can be funny without becoming harmless. He is enjoying himself, and that makes everything worse. Against him is Breaker, played by William Sadler. Breaker is not presented as a shining, fearless hero. He is tired. He has been running and fighting for far too long, carrying a responsibility that has outlived almost everything else in his life. The exhaustion gives the story weight. The key is powerful, but it is also a burden. Protecting it means accepting that your life no longer belongs entirely to you. Breaker understands that he may not leave the boarding house alive. What matters is making sure the key does. Eventually, that responsibility moves towards Jeryline, played by Jada Pinkett Smith. Jeryline begins as someone other people underestimate. She is not introduced as the obvious chosen hero, or as someone waiting for destiny to arrive. But when the situation demands something from her, she keeps going. That is what makes her journey work. The movie does not need her to suddenly become fearless. It needs her to choose what she will do while she is still afraid. Breaker carries the history of the key. Jeryline becomes the future. And underneath the gore, jokes, demons, and chaos, the passing of responsibility gives the movie an emotional center. Then there are the demons themselves. They are wet, decayed-looking physical creatures with glowing green eyes, and they feel like they occupy the same damaged rooms as everyone else. They push through broken windows, crawl over debris, tear into the building. They have weight that matters. The effects may not look polished in the way modern digital creatures often do, but these creatures feel present. There is texture in the makeup, the movement, the slime, the shadows, and the way the actors physically react to them. They do not look like something that will disappear once the scene changes. They look as though they might leave something unpleasant behind on the floor. The boarding house becomes dirtier and more damaged as the night continues. The characters look increasingly exhausted. The creatures keep coming. Everything feels worn down. The movie lets the horror become messy. And yet, Demon Night is also very funny. Not quietly funny, not subtly funny. It contains broad jokes, exaggerated characters, the Crypt Keeper, and a villain who behaves as if he is the only person at the party who understands how ridiculous everything is. But the humor does not erase the danger. That balance is harder to achieve than it looks. Some horror comedies become so focused on mocking the situation that nothing feels threatening anymore. Demon Night laughs inside the horror. It does not laugh the horror away. The collector can be hilarious and still feel dangerous. The characters can be strange and still feel worth caring about. The movie can be ridiculous while still allowing fear, sacrifice, and death to matter. It knows horror does not always have to choose between being fun and being sincere. Sometimes it can be both. Demon Knight is not a perfect movie. It does not need to be turned into something more prestigious or serious than it was ever trying to be. Its roughness is part of its personality. This is a movie with demons, sacred blood, glowing eyes, dark humor, practical gore, an exhausted protector, an unlikely hero, and Billy Zane performing as if he knows he may never be given another role quite like this one. And he was right. The movie understands exactly what kind of experience it wants to create. It wants to trap you inside that boarding house. It wants to make you laugh. It wants to cover the walls with blood. And underneath all of that, it wants to tell a story about temptation, responsibility, and what people choose when something important is placed in their hands. Maybe Demon Knight was never destined to become one of horror's most prestigious classics. But prestige was never really what it was offering. It offered personality, monsters, characters who felt alive enough to matter, and the kind of strange, committed horror experience that stayed with people who found it. Some movies earn respect by being flawless. Demon Knight earned it by becoming unforgettable. Was Demon Knight one of those movies you found and never forgot? Or is there another overlooked horror movie you think deserves more respect? Tell me about it in the comments. This is the Quiet Unease. Stay safe until we meet again.